If you've ever been pulled over by the police, you know the feeling straight away. Blue lights in the mirror. Your heart rate jumps. And suddenly you're replaying the last 5 minutes of driving in your head. And in that moment, most drivers don't mess up because they've done anything illegal. They mess up because they don't know what actually matters during a stop. What most people don't realize is the police aren't required to explain everything to you. In fact, there are a few things they're legally allowed to keep quiet about, and knowing them can completely change how a stop goes. Today, we're going through 5 things the police don't tell you when they pull you over in the UK. This isn't about being difficult or arguing with officers. It's about understanding how roadside stops actually work, so you don't accidentally make things worse for yourself. Always be polite. Always be respectful. But being informed is not the same thing as being awkward. Let's get into it. Number 1. You don't actually have to answer every question you're asked. This is the first thing most drivers don't realize. When you're pulled over, officers will often start with casual questions. Where are you going? Where have you been? What have you been doing tonight? Most people answer automatically, not because they want to, but because they assume it's required. It feels rude not to answer, but what the law actually requires is much more limited. You must provide your name, your address, your date of birth. You must provide details relating to your driving license, insurance, and MOT, either on the spot or within 7 days. But you're not legally required to explain your movements or give a backstory. And that matters, because anything you say can later be used as evidence, even if you didn't mean it to be. A simple example. You're asked where you've been, and you casually say the pub. You haven't had a drink. You're completely sober. But now you've given them a reason to breathalyze you. You've just made the stop longer and more complicated than it needed to be. What could have been a 2-minute document check is now a full roadside breath test. When people are nervous, they talk. They over-explain. They volunteer information trying to seem cooperative. But every extra detail is something that can be checked or questioned. This isn't about refusing to cooperate. It is about understanding the difference between what you must provide and what you choosing to volunteer. Number 2. The police don't have to tell you immediately why they've pulled you over. This catches people out all the time. A lot of drivers expect an explanation straight away, but officers are allowed to ask for your details first, run checks, and only then explain what's going on. That pause isn't an accident. It's part of how stops work. They're checking if the vehicle is registered to you, if it's insured, if there are any alerts on the car. And this is where people slip up. If you start guessing out loud in that moment, was I speeding, or is my light out, you can accidentally give them things to investigate that weren't even on their radar. Maybe they stopped you for a random document check, but you panic and blurt out, "Sorry officer, I know I was going a bit fast back there." You've just confessed to speeding when they hadn't even clocked you for it. So if you're pulled over and you don't get a reason straight away, don't panic and don't fill the silence. Just provide what you're legally required to. Stay calm, be polite, and wait for them to explain. They do have to tell you eventually. They just don't have to do it immediately. Number 3. You have the right to remain silent beyond basic details. This one's familiar, but it's rarely explained properly. What that actually means is you don't have to explain yourself on the roadside. You don't have to give your side of the story there and then. And here's what people often miss. Police won't always emphasize that staying silent is an option. If you're nervous, tired, or confused, trying to talk your way out of a situation can actually make things worse. You might contradict yourself. You might say something that sounds bad even if you're innocent. Silence protects you from that. It gives you time. It means you're not making decisions under pressure on the side of the road when your mind icy clear. That said, there is a balance. The caution also says it may harm your defense if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. So here's the rule. For minor stops, being cooperative usually works in your favor. But if things feel serious, or if you're being accused of something you don't understand, silence is your safest option. You're allowed to say, "I'd like to speak to a solicitor before answering further questions." That's not being difficult. That's using your legal rights. And something police won't volunteer unless you ask. You're entitled to free legal advice if you're taken to a station, but they won't offer it unless you request it. Number 4. They can't search your car without grounds. A lot of drivers assume that once you're pulled over, the police can automatically search your car. That's not true. Officers need reasonable grounds to search your vehicle. Not just a hunch, and not just because they feel like it. Those grounds have to be specific. Something they've seen, smelled, or observed that gives them a lawful reason. Maybe they smell cannabis. Maybe they see something suspicious in plain view. But reasonable grounds must be articulable. The officer has to be able to explain why they believe a search is justified. And here's the part people don't realize. You're allowed to ask what those grounds are. Now here's the sneaky bit. Officers might ask, "Do you mind if I take a look in your boot, or can I have a quick look inside?" That's a request for consent, not a legal requirement. If you say yes, you've just given permission and they no longer need reasonable grounds. If you say no, politely, they can only proceed if they actually have lawful reasons to search without your consent. You can say, "I'd prefer not to consent to a search unless you have legal grounds to require one." If they have grounds, they'll search anyway and tell you why. If they don't, they'll usually move on. Saying no doesn't make you guilty. It doesn't mean you're hiding something. It means you understand your rights. And if a search does happen, you're entitled to a record of it. The officer's name, the reason for the search, and what was found. Always ask for this. It's your legal right. And finally, number 5. You can challenge the stop. This is the one almost nobody tells you. Not every stop automatically holds up legally. If procedure wasn't followed correctly, or the stop itself wasn't lawful, the evidence gathered can be challenged later. Police won't explain this at the roadside. They'll issue the ticket or notice and expect you to accept it. But accepting it isn't your only option. You have the right to see the evidence. You have the right to question whether the stop was justified. You have the right to challenge the procedures that were followed. For example, with speeding allegations, you can request the calibration certificates for the speed detection device. You can request the officer's training records. You can request dashcam footage of the stop. If any of that's missing, incomplete, or shows procedural errors, the case can fall apart. Not because you weren't speeding, but because the evidence doesn't meet the required legal standard. Maybe the officer didn't identify themselves properly. Maybe they didn't explain the caution correctly. Maybe they conducted the stop in a way that breached guidelines. All of that can be grounds to challenge. Now, I'm not saying challenge every ticket for the sake of it. If you were genuinely in the wrong, own it. Pay the fine. Take the points. Move on. But if you believe the stop was unjust, if the evidence seems shaky, or if the penalty is serious enough to affect your livelihood, you're allowed to contest it. You can represent yourself in magistrate's court, or you can hire a solicitor who specializes in traffic law. A lot of tickets get dismissed because the prosecution couldn't prove their case to the required standard. Police won't tell you that you can fight it, but you can. And sometimes you should. None of this is about being difficult or obstructive. It's about knowing your rights so you don't accidentally make things worse for yourself. If this video helped, give it a like and subscribe to UK Driving Explained for more advice on staying safe and informed on UK roads. And let me know in the comments. Have you ever been pulled over and wished you'd known this at the time? I'll see you in the next video.